Good morning. As many of you know, if you've followed or listened to anything we've done, my start in the nursery business or the horticulture industry actually came over a Christmas season. I was working a Christmas tree lot at a very young age. Now, one thing about the nursery business, and there's so many things we can get into beyond this, but we understand seasons. We understand you've got spring, summer, fall, and winter. Whereas in the garden center business, you have these micro seasons or microclimates, and one leads into another. So when Christmas is over, when Christmas is ended in the garden center business, especially the outside section of the garden center business, the next areas that really come into play are going to be your fruit trees and berries, and then roses. So those are the things that you start to see flooding a garden center. These bare root packages of roses, they just look like thorny twigs. Well, because of the fact I didn't really have a background when things started coming in, my first job in the nursery side of the business, the plant side, was to unload all these roses and sort them out and categorize them based off of their color and B, their variety. Well, I had no knowledge of roses at all and why things would be different, and they all just looked like a bunch of thorny twigs, but we started to sort these roses out. I then got a very quick education from one of the employees there, helping me to understand these differences of the hybrid tea and the grandiflores and the floribundas. And then we had this one section on the very end, and the roses were, they called them heirloom roses. I had no clue what heirloom roses were. And over if you know anything about roses, when they start growing, they grow really, really quickly. Well, all of a sudden these roses start growing up. And one of the things I noticed was these heirloom roses, they grew quickly, but they didn't go into flower and production. The other ones started, first few stems, they were already starting to put on rosebuds. Well, shortly thereafter, as you get into the spring, all of them are blooming. And you look at these heirloom roses, and in some cases the flowers were less impressive than some of the new varieties. And so I began to wonder, why would someone want to buy that heirloom rose? What is so special about it when this hybrid tea rose over here has this beautiful flower? Well, again, season progresses, and roses need a lot of care, so you've got to fertilize them and prune them the right way, and they get bugs and insects, so you have to treat them. Well, the one thing I began to realize is the heirloom roses didn't really develop a whole lot of problems. They seem to do well. So in that, I began to see why someone might want those. So as I started, here's the thing about life. Once you learn something, it feels like it's the first time you heard it. And this goes with anything when you learn. Well, then all of a sudden you realize, because you're now aware of it, you start to see signs and glimpses of it everywhere you turn. Well, I began to realize that I grew up with a heirloom rose growing in front of the garage, the shed at our home. And people would pass these things on by cuttings. They would cut a little piece off, and we actually have talked about cuttings in the past. But again, this is how these things, they grow. They're very hardy. So that brings me to the topic I wanted to talk about today, which is heirloom, or things from the past. What's interesting is we always, as time goes on, we seem to do better, right? We get better at things. Cars are faster, cars are more comfortable, but yet there's still a market for these heirloom, these vintage and these antique cars. We talked about some brands last week, and one of them we talked about was Stuckey's and how they're bringing that brand back. If you look behind me, my whole office, and we'll do a tour and talk about some of the things in my office, I decided to go with some of the vintage looks, the nostalgia of the old days, if you will, and look at how things were back then and how we can continue to learn from things and these qualities they have. So just because something is old and something is not as flashy and something is not as showy doesn't mean we should discard it. So we're going to boil all that down into 2 points. Enduring versus endearing. So today, And let's use the rose, for example. There's some endearing qualities about these newer roses. Showier flowers, maybe more flowers, larger, more fragrant. They're very endearing. They're things that you really want to love about that plant. But those heirloom plants have enduring qualities. They'll live through droughts. They'll live through diseases. They'll be resistant because they've been around. They're resistant to some of these viruses and insects that would attack this hybrid tea plant. So that's a lot like life, right? Sometimes we neglect the enduring for the endearing. And we've got to be very, very careful when we do that. There's nothing wrong with the new or the pretty or the advanced, but we should never discard the old, the enduring qualities. If you look at this country right now, we're in this battle with one another. You know, we're divided over the founding of our nation and who was a hero and who wasn't. Well, you know, based on the rules in the 1770s, we had some heroes. We had some people that stood up and fought for our freedom to give us this nation. We weren't perfect. Not everyone was free, but it was the beginning of the process. So the thing about heirloom is an heirloom plant didn't stop learning on day one. It was enduring. And what does enduring mean? It means it constantly learns. It constantly gets better and becomes hardier and hardier and hardier. You can't lose the lessons of the past because then you become susceptible to them. So those endearing qualities, while they're beautiful, don't necessarily produce enduring qualities. So again, learning from these heirlooms, let's look at our society and our families. There are newfangled ways to raise your kids. There's new fads in dieting and fitness and jobs, but there's also these enduring qualities. This nation was founded off of some of those enduring qualities. It's been enduring. And if we decide that we want to replace it with endearing qualities today because something's more attractive or sounds better, whether it's in your life or in your nation or wherever, when you lop off those enduring qualities, you become fragile. Appreciate it, strive for creating endearing, learn from that. Take those endearing qualities of today and inject them into the enduring long-term qualities of the past and just let them become not the future, but a part of the future. Let's learn from the past. As I said, when we fought for our freedom, not everyone was free, but we went on a process, and that process has improved us. We can't throw out the old. We have to build it into the new. So in your life and your family, those things, if you've been in a relationship with your spouse and you've had struggles, don't throw those struggles out. If you've truly forgiven them and moved on, learn from them, because if you forget them, you will repeat them. Let them become part. Add the endearing qualities and let them become part. Same thing with your kids. Your kids are going to make mistakes. I've made mistakes as a son. I've made mistakes as a husband, and I've made mistakes as a dad, and I've made mistakes as an uncle, and I've made mistakes as a friend, but they're who I am today. And hopefully I won't make those again. I just did a podcast recently on these life lessons and learning as a father, the enduring qualities of fatherhood versus the endearing qualities of fatherhood. Quality over quantity. Learn, create. So again, build an enduring legacy and not an endearing situation. Add the endearing to the enduring. So again, and by the way, also check out, next time you go through the garden center, the new plants are amazing and they're great and they need a home in your garden. As a matter of fact, I want to plant some. I can't wait for spring. But don't forget about those heirloom plants, because while you're taking care of those other ones, those heirloom plants are over there just saying, just wait. I'm going to amaze you and you won't even have to take care of me. I'll take care of myself. Have a great day.